You're about to witness one of history's most calculated acts of psychological warfare. For 76 days, they didn't just imprison Marie Antoinette. They systematically dismantled her humanity, piece by piece. And it all started with an 8-year-old boy. Forget everything you think you know about the guillotine. The blade, that was mercy. What came before was something far darker. They discovered her one vulnerability, and they exploited it with a cruelty that still haunts the historical record today. This is the story of Prisoner 280, and I'm going to show you exactly what they did to her. It's July 3rd, 1793, middle of the night. The Temple prison in Paris. You hear boots echoing down stone corridors. Heavy, purposeful, getting closer. Marie Antoinette is sleeping beside her 8-year-old son, Louis Charles. Her hand rests on his chest. She hasn't let him out of her sight since they executed his father 6 months ago. The door explodes open. 6 guards flood the room, holding a document, an order. They've come for the boy. What happens next will echo through those prison walls for an entire hour. A former queen transforms into something primal, a mother fighting for her child with every ounce of strength she has left. She throws her body against the door. She screams until her voice breaks. She begs them to take her instead. But here's what makes this moment so much worse. This isn't random violence. This isn't chaos. This is calculated. Because the revolutionaries have realized something crucial. They can't break Marie Antoinette with torture, starvation, or humiliation. But they can break her with her own love. And they're about to use her son to destroy her in ways that will make the guillotine feel like an afterthought. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal gets so much darker than you can imagine. Before we confront the horrors ahead, you need to understand who Marie Antoinette actually was. Because the woman they tortured in 1793 was nothing like the caricature the revolutionaries created. She was born Maria Antonia in Vienna, 1755, an Austrian archduchess and the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa. At 14 years old, she was married off to the future King Louis XVI of France. This wasn't love, this was geopolitics. Austria and France needed an alliance, and she was the price. The French court despised her from day one. She was Austrian, which meant she was the enemy. She was young, awkward, and didn't understand French customs. The courtiers mocked her accent, her clothing, her every move. Even her own husband ignored her for years. Their marriage wasn't consummated until 7 years in, a humiliation that became public gossip across Europe. So she did what any isolated young woman might do. She escaped into pleasure, elaborate hairstyles, expensive gowns, parties at her private retreat, the Petit Trianon. The French people, starving and desperate, saw these extravagances and branded her Madame Deficit. Did she actually say, "Let them eat cake," when told the people had no bread? No, that's propaganda. But it didn't matter, the damage was done. By the time the revolution erupted in 1789, Marie Antoinette had become France's most convenient scapegoat. She wasn't a monster. She was a foreigner, a woman and a queen. 3 things that made her the perfect target. And when the monarchy fell, the revolutionaries needed someone to blame for centuries of royal excess. They chose her. But here's the crucial detail. By 1793, Marie Antoinette wasn't the frivolous party girl anymore. She was a mother of 4 who'd watched her oldest son die of tuberculosis at age 7. She'd seen her husband dragged to the guillotine. She'd spent months locked in the Temple prison with her surviving children, knowing any day could be their last. She'd already lost everything. Her crown, her freedom, her husband, her country. The revolutionaries were about to teach her that she could still lose more. Let me paint you a picture of the Temple prison, because this place was designed to break people long before they ever reached the guillotine. It was a medieval fortress in Paris, originally built by the Knights Templar. Dark, damp, oppressive. After King Louis XVI was executed in January 1793, Marie Antoinette and her 2 surviving children, 14-year-old Marie-Thérèse and 8-year-old Louis Charles were locked in a tower, guarded day and night. At first, they were kept together. Marie Antoinette tried to maintain some semblance of normal life for her children. She taught them lessons. She prayed with them. She held them close at night when the sounds of revolutionary mobs echoed through the streets outside. But the guards were watching, always watching, taking notes, reporting back to the Committee of Public Safety, the revolutionary government that now controlled France. And they noticed something. Marie Antoinette could endure anything except threats to her children. So they started experimenting with psychological torture. First, they restricted access to the children's rooms, forcing Marie Antoinette to beg for permission to see her own son and daughter. Then they installed additional guards inside their quarters, men who sat in the corner, staring, recording everything. Every conversation, every moment of affection, every tear. The children weren't allowed to speak German, their mother's native language. They had to use French exclusively, which meant even their private family moments were monitored and controlled by the state. Marie Antoinette started to unravel. Her hair, which had been light brown, began turning white from stress, a condition called Marie Antoinette syndrome, which is actually a real medical phenomenon. She stopped eating. She developed hemorrhaging that she tried desperately to hide from the guards. But she held on, because she still had her children. The revolutionaries knew they needed to take that away from her. July 3rd, 1793, the date that would define Marie Antoinette's final torment. Let me walk you through what happened that night, because the primary sources, the actual testimony of people who were there, are absolutely devastating. It's around 10 p.m. Marie Antoinette has just put 8-year-old Louis Charles to bed. He's sleeping in the same room. She hasn't let him out of her sight since his father's execution. Her daughter, Marie-Thérèse, and her sister-in-law, Madame Elisabeth, are in adjacent rooms. Then they hear it. Boots, multiple men, coming up the tower stairs. The door bangs open. 6 municipal guards, led by a man, carrying an official decree from the Committee of Public Safety. They've come to take Louis Charles away. He's to be re-educated by the Republic, separated from his mother's corrupting influence. Marie-Thérèse later wrote about this moment in her memoir. She described how her mother went from composed to feral in an instant. Marie Antoinette threw herself between the guards and her sleeping son. She grabbed Louis Charles and held him so tightly that he woke up crying, confused. And then she started screaming. Not the elegant objections of a former queen, raw, animalistic screaming. "You will not take him. You will have to kill me first. He is just a child." The guards tried to reason with her. The order came from the highest authority. She had no choice. She didn't care. For 1 full hour, 60 minutes, she physically blocked the doorway, holding her son, refusing to let them pass. The guards threatened her. They threatened the boy. They threatened her daughter. They said if she didn't comply, they would use force, and people would get hurt. Marie Antoinette kept fighting. Finally, Madame Elisabeth begged her sister-in-law to stop. The boy was sobbing, terrified. Marie-Thérèse was hysterical, and the guards were getting violent. Marie Antoinette's resistance broke. She kissed Louis Charles one final time. She whispered something in his ear. We'll never know what. And then she watched as 6 grown men dragged her 8-year-old son down the tower stairs, his screams echoing until they faded into silence. She collapsed on the floor and didn't move for hours. But here's where it gets truly evil. The revolutionaries didn't just take her son. They gave him to a man named Antoine Simon, a radical cobbler specifically chosen to deroyalize the boy. And Simon's methods were horrifying. Louis Charles was locked in a dark, windowless room. He was forced to wear a red revolutionary cap and sing anti-monarchist songs. He was taught to curse his mother, to call her vile names, to repeat accusations of treason and conspiracy. And when he refused, Simon beat him, starved him, kept him in isolation until the boy's spirit broke. Within weeks, Louis Charles was repeating everything they told him to say, including accusations so monstrous, so vile, that they would be weaponized against his mother in the most horrifying way possible. Marie Antoinette didn't know the details, but she knew her son was suffering, and there was nothing she could do to save him. That's when they moved her to the conciergerie. On August 1st, 1793, less than a month after they took her son, guards burst into Marie Antoinette's room in the Temple prison at 2 a.m. No explanation, no warning, just an order. You're being transferred. They separated her from her daughter and sister-in-law. She begged to say goodbye. They refused. They dragged her down the tower stairs, threw her in a carriage, and drove her through the dark Paris streets to a place called the Conciergerie. If you know anything about the French Revolution,